Hello everyone, welcome to a quick tutorial on some very basic functionality in R. So let's get started. Just right into it. I've written up all the code basically so we don't have to spend time going through it. I'll just show you what all this stuff does. Usually, so let's start off with we generally start off with first by importing whatever packages we might need. And in this case, I'm just going to import dplyr. Dplyr is a package that allows you to do a bunch of neat things with cleaning and manipulating data. So let's import that. You can run individual lines of code in Mac on a Mac by clicking on the line and then hitting Command Enter. I think in Windows it might be um, uh, Control Enter or something like that. Well, okay, so dplyr has already been imported, so it's fine. Um, so let's import next. Usually, what you do is you import uh, a data, some kind of data, right? It could be a command CSV file or something like that. Here we have the read CSV function, right? And what we're saying here is run this. So this arrow functionality is like the assignment functionality in Python, but here it says we are assigning whatever the output of this to the right of this, whatever the output of the functions on the right gets assigned to this variable on the left. Right? So here we just run read CSV. Read CSV takes the path name of the file as a string, run that, and then that gets loaded, and then gets loaded into this data frame. And you can click on this data frame on the right, and it'll open up in this view. You can see all the information on that, right? So just take a look at what the data looks like. It's always a good idea. So this is actually breast cancer data. I think it's from Wisconsin. I'm not sure, but so there's one categorical variable which is if the case is classified diagnosed as malignant or benign, and there's the case ID, which is the number is not relevant because it's just a case number, and the rest are all continuous numerical values. If I Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and then X is there's nothing in X. We'll drop that at some point, I think. Okay, so next, let's say you want to figure out the variance of one column. You use this dollar sign to access a single column. So from the data set called data here, use the dollar sign and it'll tell you all the different variables that are in that data frame, this column, right? And then so let's just say I want just so I want the variance of the radius mean column. And here, because I'm not saving anything to any variable, it will just print out to this console on the bottom of the screen. And here we go. It says 12 point something is the variance. Cool. So next, I want to show you the mutate function from the dplyr package and the if else function as well, which is from the base package. I mean, sorry, it's just base R. You don't import anything for that. So here what we're doing is I'm also using this piping operator, which is part of new dplyr, but it's as a part of other packages too. But you have to have a package imported that has this functionality in it. So dplyr. So what I'm saying is take this data frame called data and pipe it into this mutate function. So then here you can see that I am using radius mean. I don't have to do data this thing blah blah blah. I can just use radius mean directly. Okay, so what I'm saying is I'm just making an arbitrary column. So what I'm saying is take this data frame and then add to the data frame a column called gr mean, and the values of gr mean is the output of whatever the result of this if else condition means. So the condition I want, just randomly I decided that I want to check if any single observation is above the mean or below the mean for that column, right? So if I use the mean function, so if I say mean and radius mean, what that would what that gives me is the mean of this radius mean, this entire column, right? Okay, so what I'm saying is if the radius mean value of that row is greater than the mean of the entire column, set that row value to 1, else set it to 0. So the one so it's the syntax is the conditional, what you want to happen if it's true, comma, what you want to happen if it's false. Then so you see right now, if you open the data frame, there's no column called um, what's it called, gr mean. There's no column. There's no such column as gr mean, right? But then now if I run this line of code, you can see that gr mean gets added, and our condition is, and then the values of gr mean is based on the conditional that you set here. All right, cool. Okay, so next is the case when it behaves very similar to to the if else, but here I'm saying, okay, so same functionality, pipe the data frame into this mutate function, and then I can say I want the yes no column to be the value of the yes no column to be based on the output of whatever this is. So I'm saying, okay, so for each row, if the diagnosis is M, then populate the yes no column with yes, and then if the diagnosis is B, populate the column with that row with no, right? So this is like the assignment. So assign this value. So it's checking this. This is the comparison, checking if diagnosis equals M, and if this is the case, then set it to yes. If it's not if it's B, set it to no. It's very similar to this. So if you run this column, you can see that it's added, yeah, it's added yes nos to this column. Right? So just saying if it's B, it's yes. Just wanted to show the functionality. It's just arbitrary assignment. Okay. So next we can I'll show you the functionality to create a 2 by 2 matrix for categorical variables. So here we have it's called so we to do that we use the table function, and the table function takes two columns that are categorical. So here I've given it the diagnosis column and the gr mean column, which we just created, and I'm saving it into this contab variable object. And you hit enter. So you see nothing gets printed on the screen because it's saved in here. And if you want to see what's been saved, you type that object or variable right here, and you can see it's a matrix of values. Right. Okay. So next, we can also get this contab in terms of proportions. So the same results in that you use the prop.table function, and you can see here it gives you the same information that's presented here, but instead of raw counts, it gives you the proportions in terms of the entire data set. Cool. Okay. The next function is the summary function. We can use it to get information about the summary information about our data frame. It'll give you the information about, so if you just run it for the entire data frame, it'll give you the minimum first quartile, median, mean, third quartile, and the max for each column of the data frame. Well, the ID and diagnosis, ID, this column makes no sense because these are not actual numbers, they're just identifiers. But the rest are all continuous numeric numbers, so these all make sense. And you can do the same thing with for an individual column using the um, you know $sign syntax. All right. So sum works pretty similar. You can just you can say sum of 1, 2, 3, 4. You can also do say you can also create a vector. You create a vector in R by using the this thing, and you do sum. It will give you the same result. Right? So a vector in R is you use the C functionality. Sorry, the C function. And also, if you want to get any information about any of these functions, you can just go to the console, hit the question mark, and then write and then enter the function name, and you get on the right here information about it, right? So you can so you can get figure out what it does. Um, So C combines that into a vector list. Okay. All right. So the next is the str function. It becomes base R. You can It gives you structural information about the data frame. So, for example, if I if I say data str data, it tells you the number of observations, the number of variables, the type of each column, the data type, and the column name, and a few of those values. Right. But glimpses is similar, but it comes in the dplyr package. And if you hit enter here, you say gives you as much information as fits neatly in the window, and it gives you the data type, but also tells you what type, it's a bit more detailed, and number of rows, number of columns. Yeah. Okay, so let's say you want to get the standard deviation. That's simple. You use the standard deviation function, this is SD, and use one column, right? You can get that. You can also you do. I'm not sure if you can use the entire data frame. Yeah, you can't use the entire data frame. Okay, so yeah. All right. And then if you want to grab a sample from from the entire data set, you can use the sample len function from the dplyr package. It takes the data frame and then decides the number of samples you want. You can also say whether you want to do it with or without replacement by using the replace uh, argument, and then you say hit enter, and it'll give you 100 random samples. Okay. Um, then if you want to get the median of any column, you can use this again, median function with the column name. And here I'm showing it like so. Sometimes even if you have a categorical variable, you have to explicitly tell R that hey, this is a numerical number, but it's actually a factor. So you can set that as a factor and then set that back into the data frame. So I'm saying telling R here, take this column yes no from the data frame, you turn it into a factor and then store it back in the data frame. Run that, and then I can say levels to get, and then I can use the levels function to get the different levels of each of the categorical variables. So here it's no, yes. So if I do, for example, if I just change that to diagnosis, that'll give me a null because it's not in the form of a factor. So I will do as dot factor. Now it'll tell me BN. Okay, cool. You can get the interquartile range with IQR, very straightforward for each for any column in data frame. And here and then finally I'm showing you this group by functionality. So which is basically saying, okay, what I'm saying is I'm saying take the data, pipe it into this group by function, right? And then group the data by the diagnosis. So make them two groups. One is by malignant and one is by benign. And then take that and then again pipe the output into this summarize function where I want the summary data of the texture mean column, the radius mean column, and then I want the median of the radius mean column. So if I hit that, if you hit enter, you can see it gives you that output, right? It gives you, it has separated the data into two groups of benign and malignant, and then in those groups it will give you the means for those things. So within the benign group, what is the mean value for the texture mean column? Within the benign group, what is the mean value for the radius mean column, etc., etc. You can add as many as you want. You can add you can add SD if you want the standard deviation of radius mean. It'll give you that as well. Okay, just those are some very simple, quick things you can do in R to get some insight into your data. I'll make another video with some very basic plots. Yeah, hope this is useful. Thanks for watching. Happy statistics.